I've been working as a doctor for 3 years now, and I've come across a lot of scenarios that most people in life don't get access to. Seeing patients on death's door and also just making decisions that directly affect someone's life in high pressure scenarios. And so I've collated 5 life lessons that I've learned from working in hospitals that if you can implement, I think would really benefit your life. First lesson, not to internalize when people are mean or derisive towards you. So that could be patients being racist or threatening to sue me or harm me, or it could even just be senior doctors, allied health staff, or nurses being mean to you. And what I learned is that hurt people. There could be a myriad of reasons why they could be hurt. It could just be as simple as they're overworked and burnt out and they just have a short fuse and don't have time to teach you the finer details of why what you're saying or doing isn't making sense to them. Or it could also just be that that patient has just gone through a really sort of big traumatic experience. So what I've learned is it's best not to take things personally. It's not you at your core that is faulty. Sometimes people are just crap because they're in a crap place themselves. The best thing you can do is just wait some time and revisit the issue or quarrel and think, how could I have handled that better and improved myself from that experience, or acted in a way that I would be proud of? And I know that sounds like cringy self-help advice and it's not realistic, but just hear me out. The way I like to frame it is, would I rather my ego be hurt in this moment and learn from this experience, or not learn from it and then not improve myself and then not become successful? Don't be bitter, be better. And also just a little point I want to make on mistakes which relates to this is that if you've made a mistake and someone's mean back to you, to remember 3 things about mistakes: that they're temporary, that they're limited, and that they're non-representative. So seeing that a mistake is temporary is like saying that that just happened one time and that doesn't always happen to me. Seeing that a mistake is limited is saying that that only happened in that one place in my life and it doesn't always happen in every aspect of my life. And then the last is non-representative of your whole self, which is saying that having one mistake is an inaccurate reflection of who you are and what you're capable of. Number 2, to communicate more openly with people. If you're struggling, ask for help. If you don't understand, ask for clarification. People are stopped because of fear. Fear of looking incompetent, fear of being scolded for not understanding quickly, fear of looking stupid. But leaders are brave, and this is a perfect time to exercise you being able to master your fear. I had a really tumultuous experience with my first year working as a doctor. I always felt wronged and hurt by my job because it was during COVID and our work hours had exponentially increased. All the junior doctors were brunting a lot of the extra workload. Annual leaves had been cut without notice. And for a burnt out junior doctor, having my last solace of annual leave cut made me bitter. I began to hate my job, and to be honest, I became jaded towards medicine. But after some time and distance from the problem, I reflected on what I should have done, and rather than blaming poor leadership, I decided to look at what I could have done to better handle the situation. Now let me clarify some finer print details here. Yes, in the wise words of Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL commander, there are no bad teams, just bad leadership. I agree, but that's another person's failure to have ownership over themselves. And I don't want to make that same mistake. So I thought, what could I have done in that situation to improve it? And the answer was that I was scared of looking incompetent. And what I should have done is be brave and communicate my needs, or state plainly that I needed help to my seniors. They won't fire you just for asking. Open a dialogue and see what they are willing to do. But because I didn't want to appear foolish or incompetent, I kept it to myself, which ultimately led me to burnout. Number 3, learning to value my opinion of myself over others' opinions of me. The same doctor who is loved by the whole ward and told repeatedly how much of a hard worker they are is hated by another ward and told how lazy they are. It's the same person, but they've just seen different sides of the same person. As a fresh, brand new doctor, a lot of my value of who I was based on how my surrounding staff were treating me. When they were complimenting me and saying how hard I was working and how good I am, I would feel great and happy. But then when staff would show me they were disappointed and I didn't get XYZ done, I would feel bad about myself. And I would end up being on this roller coaster of my self-esteem. But this lesson fixed itself when I would think about how varied and biased people's opinions are. A specific time this came into view was when I was sitting in the doctor's office one day, and one of my senior doctors comes into the room singing praises of how good and exemplar our consultant doctor, the boss, was, saying he was the best she'd ever worked with and a world leader in the field. And as she left the room without missing missing a beat, another senior doctor came into the room and started telling me how poor of a doctor the consultant doctor was, equally as convinced as the other senior doctor. They were talking about the exact same person, but had vastly different descriptions of this doctor. It was like they were talking about two different people. And it just made me realize that people's opinions are just that, opinions. They aren't fact, they aren't scripture. People value different things, and even though you might work really hard and be excellent, they might value another part that they don't see. So it's always a losing battle to try and base your sense of self and worth on how other people feel about you. I feel secure in my self-esteem now when I tell myself that I'm good at what I do most of the time, and when I'm not, I hope I can act in a way that I'm proud of and graciously try to improve. And when that doesn't happen, that's okay. Sometimes there's a lot of different issues going on at the same time, and I should just try my best that I can at the time and be proud that I did that. Number 4, how to detach from an acute situation to be better and handle the crisis. In the emergency department, I learned how to think calmly in high stress situations. And this one story stands out to me. Myself and my consultant boss doctor were looking after a patient who was deteriorating. So they were getting worse and worse, and to the point where it was a life-threatening sort of condition. And it was my role to get some vascular access, meaning just putting a cannula into the patient's vein. And I remember feeling really nervous and sort of like rushing through like all the equipment and trying to do these things really as quickly as possible, because I was like, oh my God, this patient's gonna die. And I remember my boss just being like, Hamza, don't rush. You never have to rush. And it was just such a hard-hitting moment, because we're literally in the middle of a crisis, like a life-threatening scenario. And he was telling me to not rush. And it gave me permission to just slow down and actually just do my job properly and calmly. Because if I was just rushing, all the stress would have made me too nervous and not perform properly. But because he told me to just calm down and not rush, I was able to focus and use the stress to my advantage and to get vascular access, which could ultimately help the patient. So another example of this that I like to talk about with medical students is when I'm teaching them how to put in an indwelling catheter, which is just a plastic tube we put through the urethra of patients. During that procedure, even though we use anesthetic, there's still a bit of pain. Once you get the tube through to the bladder, the pressure inside the bladder releases and all their pain dissipates. Now, if you spend all your time focusing on, oh no, this is gonna hurt the patient, you won't ultimately be able to relieve their greater pain. So you need to detach for a moment and not focus on their pain, and instead focus on your job and your task ahead to ultimately give them the most relief. Number 5, learning to value life and the limited time you have. I did a rotation in oncology, which is cancer medicine and palliative care, where I would see many patients die. And please don't think that all patients who are under oncology or palliative care are doomed to die. That's not the case at all. I was just in a center where the most unwell patients would come. And at this center, I would see people from all walks of life. I saw multi-millionaires, athletes, celebrities, young people, elderly people. All of them, no matter their background, financial means, or media presence, all were facing the same pressing issue, which was death. And it was apparent that no amount of money or social media presence could stop them from passing away. Death was the only guarantee in life that they were given. And yes, that sounds morbid, but you can either let it crush you, or you can let it help you prioritize and understand how valuable living a good life is. A life that is meaningful to you, since you don't have much time. And so during those 3 months, basically every week, I would see one or multiple patients die. People who myself and the team had developed relationships with. And it made me repeatedly realize how fleeting life is. One of the biggest lessons I learned was how important relationships are in your life, because when you're on death's door, your career doesn't console you, your money in your bank account doesn't console you. It's your friendships, your family members, and your partners that do. So investing in these throughout your life is hugely important. A note though is that I still think that having a good career and making money is really important for a good life, but I think you should also place equal importance on investing time, effort, and money in your relationships. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry to end the video on a sobering note, but I think it's an important point. And I hope you found something useful. And if you did, it'd mean a lot if you could like and share the video to someone you care about. See you in the next one. Bye.